I'm Daniel, and I'm here to talk to you about multi-generational living. My story and how I became a multi-generational advocate start with a beautiful dream that started a few years ago when my family and myself planned to move and relocate to California. During this process of relocation, all our belongings were stolen, and we actually moved to a house that was quite bigger than what we used to live. But it was so empty, with nothing, with no belongings, just myself, my kids, and my beautiful wife. During that week exactly, I'm getting a phone call from my mother. And my mother on the other line just tell me that she can no longer take care of my dad. He was diagnosed with Alzheimer's several years ago, and she's been his main caregiver. And she could no longer take care of him. Who I am to judge, who I am to say anything. She's 15 hours away on a flight. So, looking at this empty house together with my wife, and suggested that maybe, just maybe, we can bring them, my parents, to live with us. She was actually more eager than I was, and we made it happen. Pick up the phone, call my mom, convince her that this is the right move to do, and she agreed. We started the process. We started to move things around, modificating the house, make sure that everything is ready for my parents. And 2 days before I flew 15 hours to pick them up, a fire broke in the house and nothing really left. So here we are, or here I am, picking my parents in a 15 hours flight back to homelessness, truly hotels, some rental houses. But in the end of the day, we found ourselves now in a reality where there are no walls of separation, there's no boundaries, it's just me and my parents and my family, and we're all under one roof, and we got to make it or break it. And not to mention that there's an Alzheimer loved one with us that now he's transitioning to stage 7, and this was really, really challenging for him and for us as a family. But we learn how to overcome the challenges, and we learn what needs to be done. And during that process, I obviously reconstructed my house to make sure it fits to people that want to age in place. So that is a very important feature that is extremely important, and we'll talk about it shortly. But then I also had to manage that event that called family and 3 generations, and how to make sure that everybody is happy. And lastly, is taking care of my dad. My dad with stage 7 Alzheimer was really needed a real support. This was not just a help, but us as a family were able to get together and truly take my mother, her entire burden from her shoulders, and take it and split it and make it the best way to not only surround him by love, but really to give him the care that he needed. So in the aftermath of everything, looking back in time, I can definitely see how my mom is so happy today. Her smile is spread between one ear to the other. She's surrounded by her grandkids. She's surrounded by love. She's surrounded by people that she loves. And the most important thing, she has meaning. She now know that she has part of our life. She's here to help us with the kids in the best way that she can. So it created so much meaning to her, and therefore she's probably in the happiest moments in her life. My kids are raising We're raising our kids as very compassionate, very resilient. They see things that maybe are not easy for some kids to look, but this is life. There's no way or reason to look away and ignore the fact that you have circle in life, and they're seeing it today. My wife and I, same thing. We're full of love, compassion, and meaning, that we have beautiful parents to take care of and help them to age in place and be in the best way that they can. Last but not least is my father. Currently, my dad is literally breathing the last breaths of his life. It is extremely hard moment for myself and the family, but I can sit here today and proudly say that I was able not only to save him, but also to help him to finish his life in the most dignifying way. He received the compassion and the love. He was surrounded by the people who always cared for him. And he was probably the happiest Alzheimer's stage 7 individual that I've ever met. Not that I met any, but this is definitely the feeling. He was smiling, he was kissing, he was loving. And unfortunately, right now, we're sitting next to his bedside, holding his hand and helping him to say goodbye to this world that he loved so much. But he was also able to give that love for us so we can help him and protect him. So when seeing the aftermath and how fantastic it works for me, then I start hearing a lot of people saying, hey, Danniel, this is very nice what you're doing. It's fantastic. It's impressive. And it kind of bothered me because isn't it exactly what people need to do to their loved ones when they take care of them? So I start digging and I look at the statistic and pull the statistic and I'm like, oh my God, 1 of 4 Americans live that way. That is a that is a remarkable number. This is almost 25% of our population. So I'm not the only one, and there's obviously a lot of people that are involved in that. I wish I knew who I could go when I had to figure this all out. But it is not just a trend, but it's a real thing. It's quadrupled itself from 20 years ago. So what used to be the natural structure, society structure in our world only 100 years ago became nuclear, especially here in the United States. And today we see how that is slowly shifting. Because again, it's not for everybody, and it's not for people that don't have healthy and good relationship with their loved ones, with their parents, with their in-laws. And you need to have some luck in order to be in that position. I totally get it. But for the ones that do, it's an amazing thing. Also, when it gets to take care of your loved one, the caregiving part. So, putting somebody in a home care constellation might cost you $5,000 a month for probably 40 hours a week. Same amount of money will cost you for an assisted living facility. So all in all, you see that when somebody wants to age in place and somebody wants to go in assisted living, costs are very, very similar and are predicted to grow in 30% by 2030. When it's multi-generational household, those costs are even cheaper because there's so many things that you can share, the actual caregiving process, the actual shopping and all the expenses. And therefore, multi-generational house living, when it gets to literally cost of aging in place with your family, is much cheaper. Your hospitalization and your health bills, everything goes down. And this is just the science that supports that. So we know there's a lot of advantages in living that way. So what I'm trying here to give you or to kind of leave you with is some steps to look at if you're considering to live in multi-generational household. So the first thing that you really want to look at is truly have a deep conversation with your loved ones. So assuming that the relationship is good, meet together, put everything on the table, all the concerns, all the issues that might occur from the financial aspects all the way to how the bills and how this thing's gonna work. Because without that conversation, nothing can start. Assuming that this conversation went well and everything is great, then you move to the next step, where is to actually meet with a financial advisor. A lot of people have no idea how much it costs to renovate, how much it costs to really make changes. What are the changes that needs to be done? Before you touching that, you got to know what you're working with because it's an essence to know that you have the budget to allocate. There is no doubt that doing home modification, remodeling, ADU, anything in the house would be way cheaper than to buy a new house. However, you still need to know that you have the funds in. And then you need to talk to professional people. Now, because you are dealing now with 3 generations, you got to make sure that the seniors in that constellation are protected. Many seniors are falling, and even though they might feel that they're young and they're 65 and they're fine, on the cellular level, they're not. They are older, and therefore they're prone to fall. And there's some minor changes to more significant one that you can prepare the house to make sure they're getting old there in the house safely, with no hazard, with no risk, and really reducing the chances to fall. After you touching that, there are the accessibility and the safety part. There are important things that needs to be done on the ground rules. So you can take the help of a family coach and go through this process, but you can also make sure that there is a very, very clear privacy and boundaries, red lines. Because you see, the moment that your in laws will critique your wife in the way they are raising their kids, that can create too much drama to hold this beautiful potential. And therefore, it's extremely important to make sure that the boundaries are there and things are not being said, or things that are should be said, like gratitude and appreciation, because these are things that are fueling the relationship and making sure that everything is much more comfortable and much nicer. There's also legal and legal document that need to look at. Power of attorney as an example, but there's different things, depends on the family constellation, the financial, and the different things that needs to be taken in consideration. If there are siblings around, you cannot ignore the fact that there are siblings. Everything needs to be on pen and paper, and everybody feel comfortable with that. And last but not least, find the professional support. Find the coach, find the psychologist, find the people that can help you with putting all of this plan together. Make sure that you have CAP certified people that working with occupational therapists, and truly prep this house to be what it needs to be. And just to recap everything that I've been saying till now, open your mind to another possibility that might be really, really great. Not for everybody, but for one that can consider that, you're making so many checks on the boxes that make your life more profound, more financially successful, and definitely not so lonely. So open your mind, think about it. Multi-generational living is definitely the right way to go in this crazy world we're living in. Thank you. I'm Danniel with Multigen.